Today I'm sharing slow cooker meals for a small family, or maybe it's just yourself. These recipes are great because they make just enough to enjoy a meal, maybe two, without any waste. We are just at the tip of comfort food season and these recipes are going to be perfect. I'm so glad you're here. If we haven't met, my name is Ange and this is the Menu Made Kitchen. We need to get our ground beef cooked up for our slow cooker taco stuffed peppers. So I have a ½ pound of lean ground beef. And once we get the ground beef cooked up, we're gonna add in our onions, cook those just a little bit, and then our seasonings. And then we're gonna add in ½ cup of onion. And for my seasonings, I have a ½ teaspoon each of chili powder and cumin. Then I have a ¼ teaspoon each of oregano, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and paprika. This comes together so fast that you could absolutely do this before work in the morning and then put your peppers in the slow cooker. Okay, that looks good. So I'm gonna pull this off the heat and we're gonna head over to our cutting board and we'll start adding in the rest of the ingredients and getting our peppers filled. I haven't cut my peppers yet. I wanted to do that with you. So I'm doing a red and a green. I'm really hoping these fit in my smaller slow cooker. And I think what I'm gonna do is actually slice them in half this way versus this way. That way they fit a little flatter in the slow cooker since it's not real big. So we're just gonna do our best to slice this baby right down the middle. And hopefully I don't bust it or anything. And then I'll go ahead and remove the seeds out of that. We'll do the same with our green. This one's kind of big. I think I'm gonna use a little smaller knife to get some of these seeds out. This is going to be perfect because my husband and I will probably only eat one each because I'm going to stuff them as full as I can get them. And then we'll have one left over for tomorrow. All right, just like that. Nice and hollowed out. So I'm going to finish the rest of these and then we'll come back here and start assembling everything. So peppers are cleaned out. We're going to add the rest of our ingredients. I have a ½ cup of cooked white rice. I almost always have cooked rice in the refrigerator for meal prep. And then I've got some frozen corn, about a ⅓ cup. We have a ½ cup of black beans and I drained and rinsed them. I also have a ½ cup of taco sauce. This is mild. You can also do tomato sauce, but I thought the taco sauce would be really good. And then I have some shredded cheese. I did jack and cheddar, and I'm just gonna add a ½ cup to this mixture, and then we'll save the other bit to sprinkle over the top. This might make a little bit more filling than we need for our peppers, but maybe not. Like I said, I am gonna stuff these bad boys as full as I can possibly get them. Okay, and we'll just fill these up. I actually tested these peppers in my smaller slow cooker, but they didn't fit, so I'm gonna have to use my bigger one, which is fine. Check these out, and I used all of my filling. I may have had to use my clean hands to stuff it down in there, but I wanted them to be full for sure. Okay, got my slow cooker, and then let's see if we can play Tetris here and get these in here nice and snug. And then I'm gonna shimmy this guy down in there. So we are gonna cook these peppers on high for about 3 hours, and then maybe like the last 15 minutes, I'm gonna sprinkle a little more cheese over the top, let that melt, and then they will be good to go. Add a little bit of cilantro, and then we get to taste them. Okay, look at that. I added some sour cream and my cilantro. And like I said, I did 3 hours in the slow cooker, and then the last 15 minutes I added the cheese and let it melt. And it really only took about 5 minutes. All right. That filling is delicious. Has a little bit of spice, but you taste that taco sauce, which I think was a really good addition. Very hearty with the beans and rice. This pepper, it just melts in your mouth. You could add some fresh avocado. You could do some fresh tomatoes over the top. I mean, really have fun with the toppings. I think my husband's gonna love this. This is gonna be the perfect meal for us tonight, and then getting to have leftovers tomorrow. I will be saving this one. Well, I am just finishing up my veggies for our slow cooker chicken gnocchi soup, which is an inspiration for the Olive Garden gnocchi chicken soup, if you've ever had that before. It's creamy, it's definitely comforting, and has great flavor. So let's add some ingredients to our slow cooker. I have 1 large chicken breast. I have 1 large carrot that I diced. We're doing a 1/3 cup of diced onion, and then you'll want 1 large celery diced. And then for our seasonings, I have a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt and Italian seasoning. And then I did a 1/4 teaspoon of rosemary, garlic powder, and black pepper. And then I'm also doing 1 bay leaf. This is kind of the perfect day for this meal because it's really overcast and cloudy, and it even rained this morning. But funny thing is, it's still supposed to be 90 degrees this afternoon. But I don't care. I am definitely ready for some comforting meals. Okay, seasonings go in there, and our bay leaf. And then I have 2 cups of chicken broth. So for this step, I'm gonna cook this on high for 3 hours, really until the chicken is cooked. And then we'll pull the chicken out, shred it or dice it, I haven't decided yet. And then we'll start adding in some of the other ingredients like the gnocchi, we've got some spinach and tomatoes. So let me get the lid on, get this on high, and then we'll see you back here in a few hours. Well, this has cooked for just a little over 3 hours. As you can see, the chicken was really tender. We got that all cut up. I chopped up some cherry tomatoes, about a 1/2 cup, and then we're gonna add our gnocchi and all that other stuff. So let's add our chicken back to the slow cooker. And if you prefer shredded chicken, by all means. I am adding 8 ounces of gnocchi. This is potato gnocchi. But what I bought was this box of potato gnocchi in the pasta section at the grocery store. And I just placed 1/2 of it, obviously, in my slow cooker. And then the other 1/2 I'm gonna put in the freezer. It freezes really well. And I just put a date on it. And then you can make another meal with the box of gnocchi. So we're also gonna add in our cherry tomatoes. And I'm adding in a 1/4 cup of 1/2 and 1/2. So we are gonna place the lid back on and give this a quick little stir. And we're gonna cook this about 15 to 20 minutes, still on high, until the gnocchi is tender. You want it to be just tender and kind of pillowy. And then we're gonna add a little bit of cornstarch to kind of thicken the soup, add our spinach, and pull everything all together. It's gonna be so good. It already looks and smells delicious. Just a little bit longer. Our 20 minutes is up, so I'm gonna add some cornstarch and water. I have 1 tablespoon of cold water and 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. And that'll just kind of help thicken our soup a little bit. And then we're gonna add in 1 cup of chopped baby spinach. So the only thing left to do is I'm going to grate some Parmesan cheese, and then I'll do a little bit of fresh parsley over the top. So I'm gonna pop the lid back on while I do that. It'll take another 5 minutes or so to kind of thicken up some of this soup, and it will be ready to taste. If you want the broth to be a little bit thicker, add a little bit more cornstarch and water, and you might need to cook it a little bit longer. It's meant to be a soup, not like chowder or a stew. So the broth is a little bit thinner, but it still is like creamy and a little bit thick. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I ended up adding a little bit more Parmesan cheese to mine because I love parm with any kind of like creamy soup. Oh my heavens gracious. That has wonderful flavor. The broth, and then just the tenderness of the gnocchi with the chicken. And I love the tomatoes, the addition of the tomatoes in there. Just give it some, I don't know how to even explain it, just a little burst of like freshness almost in a way. And then the Parmesan cheese adds that saltiness. It is just perfection, like the best slow cooker soup for the season for sure. Absolutely a 10 out of 10 recipe. And even though there were a few different steps, it was still very easy. You know, slow cooker meals are just simple. I hope you mark this one down as a saver. You definitely have to try it. So this is what we need for our slow cooker Mississippi pot roast. We're going to be doing some carrots and potatoes, just so it's a full meal. And then of course we have our pepperoncinis. And then I'm using 1.5 pounds of chuck roast. So let's head over to the stove. We need to get our beef seared, and then pretty much everything else goes into the slow cooker. All right, we have our small pan heated to like a medium heat. I'm going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. And what I did for our chuck roast, I added salt and pepper on both sides along with a little bit of garlic powder. You just want to be really careful not to over salt the beef because we are going to be adding the au jus and the ranch mix, which has plenty of sodium. So just a little touch of salt and then some pepper and garlic powder. I like to cut these into smaller pieces because it cooks a little quicker in the slow cooker. So we'll get a nice golden crust on both sides, and then we'll head over to the slow cooker and start pulling everything together. Beef is nice and seared, so now we're going to add in our potatoes and carrots. And I'm using 1 pound of baby yellow potatoes, and I cut them in half. And then we're also going to add in, I have about 3 medium-sized carrots that I've also just kind of cut into chunks. I want to keep this as simple as possible, right? I kind of like to shove the veggies down in the little nooks and crannies of the meat around the edges. That way when we pour on our seasonings, it'll get onto the beef as well. And the Mississippi part of this pot roast, I'm going to take my pepperoncinis, and I'm using whole pepperoncinis. I think these are mild, so they're not too spicy. Just kind of tuck them down in there. We're also going to be adding a little bit of the juice as well. So I have 6 whole peppers. And then we'll add in 2 tablespoons of the juice. We have a packet of ranch seasoning mix, and I'm only going to use half of this. And same thing with the au jus gravy mix. We're only going to use half the packet. We got to add some liquid, so I'm going to do 1/2 cup of water, and then I'm going to do 1/2 cup of beef broth. And the reason I'm doing the water and not all beef broth is because the au jus and ranch mix, again, has a lot of sodium, and we definitely don't want this to be overly salty. I mean, it already is going to be high sodium. This is not a low sodium dinner, but it's going to be delicious. And then we got to add some butter. So I've got 3 tablespoons of butter. I know it looks like 4, but I just cut them a little bit smaller. Yum, that looks so good and beautiful. So that is it. I'm going to pop the lid on, and we're going to cook this on low. It is only 8 o'clock in the morning, so this needs to cook all day, about 8 hours or so. Obviously, you want the meat to be super tender, fall apart, and then the veggies nice and tender. And then that's going to be it. We're going to serve it up. Maybe I'll make some gravy out of the mix. I haven't decided yet. We'll see. Okay, we'll see you back here in a bit. This is going to be so comforting and cozy. My house smells like a Sunday afternoon, like reminds me of my childhood. So I actually had to leave this in for 7.5 hours, really until the meat just kind of fell apart. And what I'm actually going to do, I'm not going to make gravy. I transferred most of the liquid into a jar, and then we'll let it set, and I'll skim the fat off. And then tomorrow, my husband and I will have French dips. So I thought that would be kind of fun. Plus, this has so much flavor. I don't think we're going to need the gravy, but the meat is like butter. So what I like to do, typically, I didn't have time to do it, but I like to chop up the pepperoncini peppers and then kind of mix it in with my roast. But I'm just going to take a bite of the roast and then take a bite of the pepper. Oh my gosh, the meat is just fantastically tender. All right. A little pepper. There is nothing better than pot roast that just melts in your mouth. Nobody wants beef jerky pot roast. All right, and then our carrot. I know Mississippi pot roast has been around for a long time, but if you haven't tried it, it is a fantastic way to enjoy pot roast. The brine and the pickled part of the pepperoncini peppers really gives the meat great flavor. And then coupled with the ranch seasoning mix and the au jus mix, and it's not overpowering. You still taste the potatoes and carrots and the flavor of the meat. It's not like it's drowning in too much, seasoning mix, if that makes sense. A fantastic meal for two. I cannot wait to have French dips tomorrow. I think I'm mostly excited about that. If you need a small batch dinner or you're just cooking for yourself or a couple people, this is the perfect meal. I wanted to remind you, all of the recipe links are in the descriptions, so if you missed anything in the video or if I left something out, you can find all the details on my website. Here's another video with some awesome slow cooker recipes. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.